What was that?
What was what?
Something moved out there.
Yeah, it's probably just an animal.
Ah! Who the hell are you?
This is my land, babe.
Dude, this is public property. It says on the website, right?
Look, I'm hunting. And I ain't gonna ask you twice. If I come back here in 10 minutes and that tent ain't gone, I'm gonna put holes in it. And if you happen to be in that tent, that'd be, unfortunate.
It's fine. We'll go.
What website were you looking at?
I screwed up, okay?
And were you about to fight him? He had a gun. You saw that, right?
Do you want to get shot or do you want to get out of here?
I wanted a hotel room.
Scene 1E, take 2.
9 minutes till 5:15.
I'm gonna build a fire. Boston, how you like putting up tents? Is it possible to shoot it so that we shoot everything facing this direction first? Because this one especially,
I was thinking about
this is our ambience light. So that's the one that, like, when we shoot that way, it's gotta be lighting up over there.
Yeah.
And when we shoot this way, it's gotta be lighting up over here. Filming at night is a huge challenge, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere with no power or generator. So in this video, I'm gonna break down how we shot the film you just watched, Happy Campers, out in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, with just a couple battery-powered lights. And make sure you stick around, because not only are we gonna talk about how we pulled off the professional quality footage you're seeing on screen now, but we'll also dive into how we dealt with the sun coming up in the middle of the shoot and managed to keep the scene still looking like nighttime. And after we cover all that, I'm gonna walk you through some of the reflections we had on the shoot and what I plan to change for the next time that I'm out in the middle of the woods at night shooting a film. We've got a lot to cover in this BTS feature, so let's jump right in. There's 4 core shots that I want to cover in this video, all of which we approach slightly differently. We've got the master wide shot, close-ups on the Happy Campers themselves, and the coverage of our deranged hillbilly. And then the ending shots that we covered when the sun was very much over the horizon, we're going to cover those as well. So let's go on set and start with the master wide shot. All right, so we're getting ready to shoot Happy Campers right now. I'm gonna break down the lights for you really quick. So everybody strike off the lights for me. So now all we've got is a little bit of ambience on me, but our scene is totally dark except for the fire going on. So the first thing that we've done is we've lit up the far back trees. Who's back there? Boston, strike yours on, Boston. So you can see now we've got just like the far back trees. If we don't light those up, then the whole background just totally falls into darkness and it does not look professional. It does not look like the movies you see in Hollywood or anything like that. So the next thing we're gonna do is just bring in like moonlight coming in to light basically the whole scene. Like right now there's clearly no moonlight at all, but we're gonna pretend like there is. So Gomez, go ahead and strike yours on. So now you can see that's doing the main work of the lighting here to light up the whole shot. Last thing, Jared is gonna add in some fill coming in from the other way. So you can see that just adds in some fill on the other side. Same color temperature, it all looks like moonlight coming in. It's a little dimmer, like maybe the moonlight's bouncing off some trees back at them, something like that. So again, it's always like shooting in low light is not about just getting on set and cranking your ISO up as high as you can get it and just hoping you have a camera that can handle it. The shooting in low light is about lighting your scene to make it look like you're in a low light situation. So hence we're motivating everything by fake moonlight and making it look as good as we got it. So we're about ready to roll. Chris, you ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. Let's shoot this thing. Once we shot the wide, it was on to the close-ups. First, we shot John's coverage and repositioned the lights to keep everything looking cinematic. All right, so what we've got now here, since it's a close-up on John, basically what we've done is just taken our fill light and it's become our key light, so it looks like the light is wrapping around John's face there. And it lets us shoot into the shadow side, so we're shooting far side key right now. We're also using our other tube lights to backlight him. Gives us a look kind of like he's in a cave of light, so the shadows on his face and the light's coming in from all around him. Besides that, we don't really have anything on the background other than we do have one of the tube lights on Boston back there just to bring up his fill a little bit. So that's our insert for this shot. All right, what do we got? Basically, instead of having the scene keyed from the left side of the screen like we did for the wide, we flipped things around so that the key light was coming from the right side of the screen. This may seem like a continuity error, and technically speaking it is, but they do it in Hollywood all the time. Lighting continuity is hardly ever correct from shot to shot, but it's something that people don't really notice while they're watching. So as long as the lighting is staying motivated, you're completely fine moving your key light so that you're shooting into the shadow side of the talent, which will always make the shot look more cinematic. And when we flipped it to shoot Sarah's side of the scene, we did the same thing again. All right, so now basically we flipped for the reverse, and we've just mimicked the same lighting. A lot of times you think, well, the light should be coming in from one direction, right? So like if you're gonna shoot far side key, you can't shoot far side key on both people. You can just switch the lighting and nobody in the audience ever notices because it's just normal. Like all big movies do it, totally normal. So now we've got the key light on the far side of her again, even though before the key light was over where I'm standing. So we've just flipped it so that now if you look, I'm still shooting into the shadows on her face. And we've got a pretty good shot with the tube light coming in on the background. We've got the 600D lighting up the background there. And we look pretty good. So, all right, Chris, what's next? So then we moved on to Boston's coverage, our crazy redneck threatening to put holes in our happy camper's tent. For this, we just put one of the TL30 tube lights pointed at Boston from screen left, matching the moonlight from the wide shot and maintaining our position on far side key. Then we raised the shadows a little with another tube light on the other side. At this point in the day, the sun was starting to break over the horizon, so there was some spill lighting up the background. Because of this, we didn't add any light to the background and just let the ambient light do the work for us. By the time we were ready to move on to the campers picking up their tent, the sun was comfortably risen, and we were moving as quickly as possible to get our coverage before the sun got too high in the sky. So you can see we're getting a lot of light. We're running a little late in our shoot day here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking our 600D, it's our brightest light we have, and I'm taking it up all the way to 6%. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just making it super bright, hitting them from the back so that I can stop my exposure down and get rid of some of the ambient light. So that's kind of what I'm doing here to deal with the fact that we have so much light. Basically, I was able to take my bright light and blast it into the scene, still mimicking moonlight. And since the light was significantly brighter than the sunlight in the scene, it let me turn down the exposure in my camera and effectively make it look like the ambient light from the sun was much dimmer than it really was because of the contrast between the sunlight and the brighter Godox light. This worked great for them tearing down the tent, but when we got to shoot the final shot, the background was starting to get just way too bright. Looking at this shot, you can see I accidentally shot near side key, which broke the lighting continuity for the sequence and made it feel out of place. I also probably needed a little more fill on shadow side of the face, and the moonlight definitely needed brought down by at least 1 or 2 stops so it didn't completely overpower the shot. But since we were behind schedule and moving fast, I didn't realize how big of an issue this was until we got into editing. So I tried using Lumetree's HSL controls in Premiere to isolate the talent and turn down the exposure of the background, but it just wasn't working out. Then I tried rotoscoping them in After Effects, but it still just wasn't working because of how strong the backlight was hitting Sarah's hair. So I opted to use the coverage for as little in the edit as possible and rely on the wide shot and Boston's coverage for that part of the film. And for the section where I did have to use the shot, I cropped it in so that Sarah's hair wasn't in the shot and just rotoscoped John along with Sarah's shoulder. Then I was able to reduce the exposure of the background and get the shot to work for what I needed in the edit. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how the footage turned out. It's not quite the look that I was going for, but it's definitely on the level of several Hollywood films in my opinion. I do way prefer the way Boston's coverage looks compared to the wide shot and other close-ups though, and that's mainly because of how the light in the background looks cast by the ambient light from the sun breaking over the horizon. I feel like this gives it a much nicer ambient moonlight look than the other shots with harsh light that cuts off into pitch black. I specifically wanted to shoot a night scene like this because we're working on developing a feature film right now that has several scenes that take place at night out in the middle of the woods. So I wanted to treat this shoot as a test run so we could figure out some of the things like this before actually shooting the movie. And I'm definitely glad that we did because I think the scene would have ended up looking a lot more how I'd intended if I'd had the moonlight coming into the scene be a lot softer and more diffused, like the background of Boston's coverage where the sunlight is being diffused coming over the horizon instead of the harsh and and contrasty light like we had for the rest of the scene. Adding some haze to the background to scatter the light out more, I think would have really helped keep the faraway trees from falling so completely into darkness as well, and really just adding a sheet of diffusion over our light probably would have fixed the problem entirely.
I ended up doing another test shoot just kind of at the side of my house a couple of months later, and just bounced my 300 by off of an 8x8 floppy ultra bounce back at the subject, and you can see definitely we are getting a much more what I would call cinematic look here with that nice diffused lighting rather than the harsh lighting we used to shoot Happy Campers. After doing the test shoot, I did go ahead and buy an 8x8 butterfly frame, and this will be what I'm using when we actually shoot the feature film to get that diffused look for the moonlight effect.
But overall, like I said, I feel like the look that we put together for Happy Campers absolutely looks professional and would pass as industry quality. There were just some little changes that we could have made to take it to the next level. Great lighting is really only one step in the process of making an incredible film though, and at the end of the day, you can have the nicest lights in the world, but if you're making one of 5 basic mistakes, your films will never look like the movies that you watch in theaters. That's why I put my 10+ years of experience in the film industry and put together a list of the 5 biggest mistakes that I see filmmakers make that keep their films looking amateur. I literally made all of these mistakes on an ongoing basis for years before I figured out what they were or how to fix them. So I guarantee you that if you've been making films for less than 5 years, you're absolutely making at least one of these critical mistakes. Just click on the first link in the description to watch my full video breakdown of the 5 critical mistakes that make films look amateur.